Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be telling you all about the books that I read throughout October. October was a really busy month for me, but I had so much fun reading this month because it was the Breath of the Wildathon, which I was one of the hosts for, and we did the live show and I hosted some reading sprints throughout the month, and it was just a really fun time. So the first book that I ended up reading wasn't for the readathon, but was just something I felt like reading and that I'd been wanting to read for a while, and that is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. I loved this. I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so good. I didn't realize that it wasn't like all one story. I knew it was a graphic novel and it's like a love story between a werewolf and a vampire, but each single page is like a different snippet into their lives. Like, it's very much a slice of life sort of graphic novel as opposed to a full-on story. But despite that, I still absolutely loved it. A lot of the humor in this was puns, so if puns are something that annoy you, you might not like this because a lot of it were very punny. But honestly, I absolutely loved it. I was laughing, I was smiling. It was a really quick read, but it made me really happy. Speaking of happy as well, I read volume 1 of Spy Family as one of the prompts for the Breath of the Wildathon. I mean, I knew I was gonna love this. I love the anime of this so much. It's one of my favorites, and it makes me feel so good, and it just makes me laugh and smile, and it makes me so happy. I knew what was going to happen in this anyway. It is the story of Lloyd Forger, who is a spy, and in order to save the world and prevent war from happening, he has to kind of infiltrate himself into this elite school. But to do that, he ends up adopting a daughter, finding a fake wife, and it's just this whole thing, and it is so wholesome. It is the best thing ever. Like, I am obsessed with this. So each of them have secret identities as well. So Lloyd is a spy, his wife is an assassin, and their adopted daughter Anya is a telepath. And Anya knows because she can read minds, but no one else knows about any of their secrets, and it's a really fun time, and I love this story so much. It makes me so happy. I really read a lot of graphic novels at the very start of the month because the next book that I read was Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. This is a Shadow and Bone graphic novel, so it's the prequel to the story, and it follows the Darkling. I think I've technically read Demon in the Wood before it was made into a graphic novel. I can't remember. It was a while ago that I had my Shadow and Bone obsession. I think I rated it like 4 stars because it is not necessary to read at all for any of the books, but I really like the art style and the colors, and I thought it was just like a good read for someone who really enjoys this world and this universe. So if you're a Grishaverse fan, I do recommend picking this one up. And just because it's like beautiful, you like look at the cover, like the inside of the dust jacket as well, it's absolutely beautiful. And I think it's just a really nice, quick, easy book to have in that collection if you're a fan of the series. Next up, I ended up reading volume 1 of Chainsaw Man. I ended up reading this one because I was so excited for the anime to start this month, and I haven't continued reading on the manga, and I don't think I'm going to, just because I'm enjoying seeing it in anime form so much, and I kind of want to keep it a surprise for myself. But I am really glad I read this. I had no idea what to expect. It is so funny. It is about Denji, who is homeless and an orphan, and in order to get through life, he picks up a part-time job killing demons or killing devils. Honestly, he gets like a very small percentage of what he should be getting paid, but it gets him by. But then he ends up getting into actual devil hunting, and he ends up turning into a type of devil himself. So it's really, really good. Like I said, I just don't think I'm going to continue this manga at the moment because I think I do want to be surprised by the anime. Maybe I'll continue it at a later date, but for now I'm okay with just reading volume 1. The next book I read was for the Blood Moon prompt for the Breath of the Wild-a-thon, and that one is Angelfall by Susan E. The prompt that I got was to read a book that is 10 or more years old, and so I decided to pick this one up because while it is a reread for me, I haven't read it in a really, really long time. Like the last time I read this was, I think, like 2014, 2015. I say in my vlog, if you want to check that out, I'll leave the Breath of the Wild-a-thon vlog down below. This is set in sort of like a dystopian post-apocalyptic world where the angels have taken over and destroyed all of Earth, and the humans are just trying to survive. It's literally only a couple of weeks after the angels first landed, and it follows Penryn, whose sister ends up getting kidnapped, and she goes on this journey to get her sister back. When I first read this, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars easily, but this time around, it didn't hit the same. And I ended up giving it technically 3 stars on Goodreads, but it feels more like a 2.5. It was very, very action-packed. Like, it's so fast-paced, it's very easy to read. But in saying that, there's no, like, emotion and very, very little character development throughout this book, and even very little relationship development between any of the characters. I touched on this a little bit more in my vlog, but like, while I know that we're supposed to care about Penryn's sister because she's a 7-year-old girl who gets kidnapped, but I was told to care about her, but like, we didn't even get like flashbacks about like their relationship or like things that they did together. It was very bare bones, and it just, I don't know, it just really fell flat for me this time. It was also really weird to read at times because it felt like a lot of it was quite ableist. So her sister's in a wheelchair. I'm just gonna give a spoiler right here. I'm gonna put my hand up if you don't want to hear this. But basically, her sister is magically healed by the end of it, first of all. And also her mother has schizophrenia, and she has really bad delusions, and she sees things and hears voices, and it's really, really severe. And it's never really explored with any sort of sympathy. It's just kind of used as a plot device to show how crazy the world has gone and how it's always been that way for Penryn, and how, you know, her mother is just this absolutely like out of this world without being out of this world character. And it just felt really, it felt gross, and I didn't like it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I've definitely outgrown this one. It was not worth the reread for me. I don't think I'll be continuing the reread of the series, and it really disappointed me because I have such fond memories of reading this, and the reread was just not worth it for me, unfortunately. The next book that I ended up reading for the Breath of the Wild-a-thon was to read a book with fall vibes. And for that one, I decided to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Chose it just because of like the cover, essentially. Like, I've got this beautiful special edition. I listened to the audiobook and read this at the same time physically, and I can't believe that I've never read this before. I saw all the hype about this years ago on BookTube, and I just never picked it up for some reason. I absolutely love this so, so much. It is about a girl named Addie who, one day, she is being forced to marry this man in her village. It's originally set in, I think, the 1700s. And instead of wanting to get married, she ends up making a prayer to the gods, but she accidentally prays to the wrong god. And so she ends up making a deal with him to extend her lifespan, but as a consequence of that, she is cursed and no one remembers who she is. And it is so well done. It is beautifully written. I absolutely loved Addie. I loved Henry. I loved all of the side characters, and I loved hearing about their past and their present and seeing how that kind of intermingled. I love learning about Addie and Death's relationship, and it was just, I don't know, it really exceeded my expectations. I'm kind of thankful I read this a little bit later, to be honest, because I feel like I've heard a lot of people didn't like this as much, especially when it first came out. I think from memory it was marketed like completely differently, but thankfully, like coming into it a couple of years later after the fact, this was amazing for me. I cried, I was sobbing by the end. I loved the characters. I love everything about this book. I'm so happy I decided to finally pick this one up. This one was a easy 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I'm obsessed with this. I loved it so much. Almost ending on a good note, but not, actually, no. We will end this video on a good note. I'm going to talk about the last book that I read in October, and then we can end it on a 5-star book. But this book was not a 5-star book. This book was a 2-star book, and I don't have the physical copy because I listened to the audiobook. That was Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enrique. I did not enjoy this at all. It is a short story collection with stories that are set in Argentina, and it follows the lives of women who live in that country. It sounds really, really interesting, but every single story, I just felt like it ended too soon, and I love open-ended stories. I don't mind them at all. I don't mind endings that don't make sense, or that kind of end abruptly, or that have weird, questionable endings. Like, I don't mind that at all. But all of these stories, like every single one, felt like it literally ended mid-sentence. Like, it would just start to get good, or I'd just be starting to get a little bit interested, and then it would just end and go into the next story. And it was almost like it was, yeah, like I said, literally mid-sentence. Even for like a weird ending, it didn't feel like a natural way to end a story, like even a weird one. And every single story was like that, and it was so unsatisfying. Yeah, it was really weird. I don't know if it's just an outdated term or what it's considered now, but there is the T word used a lot in regards to trans people in the first story. It just felt very outdated to me. I mean, that one wasn't a good story anyway, but then none of them were, and it was just like a whole string of like messes. I almost DNF'd this, and it's like a 5-hour audiobook. It is not hard to get through at all, but I just did not have a good time. But I read this one for the Breath of the Wild-a-thon as well, but yeah, not my fave. The next book that we will end on a high note is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke and Other Misfortunes by Eric LaRocca. This one has been on my radar for like a year now, and I've been wanting to pick this one up for the longest time and wasn't able to find the paperback anywhere, and it's because this hardback was coming out, and so now I own it, and I read it and I loved it, and I'm so glad it met my expectations, because I was so scared that after all that time of waiting for me to get my hands on this book, that it would just disappoint me. The first story, which is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, it is, I mean, they were all very weird, but they were all really, really good. Like, they were all 5-star short stories for me. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and they all made me feel really creepy or really yucky, and it was just, I really loved it. I thought it was great and really well done. I can definitely see why this has really low ratings on Goodreads, because it is very, very strange, and it has a lot of really messed up stuff, and a lot of stuff that makes you feel really gross and uncomfortable. But I really love that in a horror, and I think it was really well done, and it exceeded my expectations. I'm so happy that I love this so much. But yeah, highly recommend. And the other 2 stories in here were really good as well. Like, the first one is the titular story, and I'm pretty sure is the most popular from Eric LaRocca, but the other 2 were really, really good as well. Okay, so that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. They are all of the books that I read in October. Let me know in the comments below what you read in October. Did you do any readathons? Did you participate in the Breath of the Wild-a-thon? What spooky books did you read? What were your favorites? Please, let's talk about it. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you would like to as well. And yeah, I'll see you all next time for a new video. Bye.